Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and make this video for you guys to be able to use tonight to go ahead and study for the test. When we're looking at number 1 here, we're basically talking about making a conjecture for the next term in this sequence. This shouldn't be too hard since we can see here that each one of these terms, let's change the color here, each one of these terms is actually going down by 5. Okay, so we can see here that 72 minus 5 is going to give us 67. Okay, so that's going to be my next term here. So make a conjecture about, or make a conjecture given that M is the midpoint of BC. Okay, so again, if we were just to write a line, okay, and so here's our line, and we have B and C, okay, and then we have this point M, which is the midpoint. There's something unique about the midpoint in that it creates two congruent parts for me. So then if M is the midpoint, then I can make a conjecture that this segment right here, BM, is congruent to MC. Okay? We gotta do the congruent sign here. So determine the truth value of the conditional statement if A plus B is less than or equal to 8 and A equals 2, then B is less than or equal to 5. So again, we're just starting off here with saying A plus B is less than or equal to 8. Okay? However, we're being told that A equals 2. Okay? But we still have plus B is less than or equal to 8. Now, when I solve for this, then this tells me that B is less than or equal to 6. Well, that's not what I had there, so that's a false statement. Okay? And a counterexample is if I have a number line. Okay, and so so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So the first statement, the one that I started off with, was B is less than or equal to 5. So if B was less than or equal to 5, then we have a closed circle here. We're talking about all of our B values that is less than or equal to 5. However, when I solved it, I saw that B was less than or equal to 6. So what that means is it did not take into account all of those values between 5 and 6. So a counterexample could be any number between 5 and 6, including 6. So a counterexample could be 5.5. Okay? It could also be 6. Any one of those numbers between 5 and 6, including 6, is a counterexample for it. Okay? So identify the hypothesis of the statement. If x plus 4 equals 5, then x equals 1. The hypothesis, of course, is if x plus 4 equals 5. Okay? Now, I am not going to write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of the conditional statements. I think that we're okay there. We know that we start off with if P, then Q. Okay? So the converse is if Q, then P. The inverse is if not P, so we negate P, then not Q. And the contrapositive says that we're basically flipping the inverse. If not Q, then not P. Okay? Alright, so choose the property that justifies the statement. So if 2x equals 6, then x equals 3. Well, again, if I was to solve this, I would divide both sides by 2 and get x equals 3. So here we have the division property. Okay? Now, if I have here the measure of angle A equals 10, okay? And then we also have the measure of angle B equals 10. So therefore, the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle B. Okay? So two different ways you could look at this. Okay? We're saying that basically, if the measure of angle A equals 10 and the measure of angle B equals 10, then if we were to work backwards here for a second, then 10 also equals the measure of angle B. 10 equals the measure of angle B. So then if 10 equals the measure of angle B, then I can substitute what 10 equals for the measure of angle B. Okay, so that way I could use the substitution property. Okay, I substituted what 10 equals up here. Okay, the other way you could also look at this is, well, if the measure of angle A equals 10, and we're saying that 10 equals the measure of angle B, then by the transitive property, we know that the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle B. Because again, the transitive property basically said that if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Okay. Number 9, angles that are formed by two intersecting lines are vertical angles. Vertical angles are always congruent. So then x plus 30 equals 55. So x equals 25. Not bad. Number 10, if the measure of angle 1, if this angle right here is twice the measure of angle 2, then find out what the measure of angle 1 is. Okay? So again, if we let the measure of angle 2 just equal x, and the measure of angle 1 is twice the measure of angle 2, well then the measure of angle 1 is 2 times whatever the measure of angle 2 is. And we know that we have a linear pair which equals 180 degrees. So we set it up as 2x plus x equals 180. So we get 3x equals 180, so therefore x equals 60. Okay? So if we're looking for the measure of angle 2, well then, measure of angle 1, I'm sorry, then we're going to plug in x here with 60, and we get 2 times 60, which gives me 120. True or false? If false, state a reason. Okay? So again, we have a law of detachment here that says if P, then Q. If an angle is acute, then it cannot be obtuse. Okay? So it's saying here, angle A is acute. So it's telling me that my hypothesis, or my conclusion, it's telling me that my hypothesis is true, so therefore my conclusion is also true. So that's a true statement. Choose the property that justifies the statement. This is the reflexive property. To choose the property that justifies this statement, if GH is congruent to FD, then FD is congruent to GH. Well, that's just going to be symmetric property. Okay? So if the measure of BFC, so we have BFC, if that equals 70 degrees, I want to find what the measure of EFD is. Well, I know that this tells me that DFC is equal to 90. So if I add all these angles together, they should equal 180. So again, I don't know what this angle is, but if I add it to the 90 with the 70, set it equal to 180. Okay, so we get x plus 60, I'm sorry, 160 equals 180, so x equals 20. So the measure of this angle right here, the measure of angle EFD is equal to 20 degrees. Okay, so the measure of angle AFB, again, going back to this drawing right here, we're going to erase this for a second. So here we're being told that AFB, so we have AFB equals 5x minus 10. And we're told that BFC equals 3x plus 20. Well, again, I'm looking at a linear pair. Okay, so when I add these together, they will equal 180. So I get 5x minus 10 equals, plus 3x plus 20 will equal 180 degrees. And we just solve for x. So we get 8x plus 10 equals 180. When we subtract the 10, we get 8x equals 170. So 170 divided by 8 gives me 21.25. So here we're being told that angle ABC, so ABC is congruent to EFG. Okay? And so the measure of angle ABC is equal to 72 degrees. So this equals 72 degrees. So then therefore this equals 72 degrees. So if I'm looking for GFH, well, I know that the whole thing equals 90, so therefore the balance of this is 18. Okay? Okay, so we have, again, ABJ, and this equals 28. And then ABC, this larger part here, ABC, this whole angle equals, or is congruent to, this is congruent to DBJ, so it's congruent to DBJ. Okay? So we have this angle right here is congruent to this angle right here. If we look at this, this is a little bit unnecessary information. Gonna kind of filter through that, because if ABJ equals 28 degrees, okay, and then we have, hang on one second. Okay, I actually found an error on this right here. I'm going to go back through and do number 17 again, because I wrote something down wrong. Okay, so we have ABJ, which is going to be (28 degrees). Okay, and then we have, so if we know that, then let's look at what the balance is here. JBD, okay, is going to equal what? Well, we take 90 minus 28, which gives me 62. Okay? So, however, we're being told, and again, the picture doesn't necessarily reflect it as well, but what we're being told that this angle right here, DBJ, is congruent to, so DBJ is congruent to ABC. Okay, so these two angles are congruent, which means that this angle will also equal 62 degrees. So if I want to find out what the angle measure is in the middle here, then I'm going to take 62, which is the total angle of measure here for ABC, subtract it from what I know, which is 28 degrees, and that's going to give me 34. Because I take 62 minus 28 gives me 34. Okay? Make a conjecture based on the information that I have a line here. I'll make these a little bit straighter. So we have a line. We're going to call this line right here XY. All right? And then we're being told that we have a line AB that intersects it. Okay, so we have AB that intersects it at point Z, or bisects it. I'm sorry, bisects it. So if it bisects, so if AB bisects XY, then it cuts it into two equal parts. So then the conjecture is that XZ would be congruent to YZ. We start off with, and again I told you today in class that this is supposed to be a 2. So we start off first with the given statement, 2x minus 7 equals 4. That is given to us. All right, so we'll add the 7 to both sides. So 2x equals 11 by the addition, property of equality. All right, so therefore x equals 11 over 2 by the division, property of equality. Complete the following sentence or statement. This is the law of syllogism that says, if it snows, then I'll wear my gloves. That's the conclusion. If the conclusion of the first is the hypothesis of the second, if I wear my gloves, then my hands get itchy. So we can make a statement, if P, then R. If it snows, then my hands get itchy.